Pardon the wrestling, but I am Bryan, and it's time we talk about this Karrion Kross situation. Now, for some reason, you've been living under a rock, and the Karrion Kross situation is a new situation too. Here's the quick abridged version. Leading up to this past week, Karrion Kross's contract was coming due with WWE, and it was led to believe that this may have some work shootness to it, and there was a lot of conspiracy theories running around this particular deal when it came to Karrion Kross no longer working with WWE, or is this just some huge work that WWE is going through? And it turns out maybe it's real, or maybe it's a work. That's what we're here to talk about. What is actually going on? Because no one really, I think, can say with 100% certainty they do know what's going on. So, what do we know? Now, August 10th, I believe, was the official last day for Karrion Kross and his wife Scarlett with WWE. So their contracts currently are expired. Now, Kross worked his final program recently with Sami Zayn, which concluded in a loss at SummerSlam. Now, the story was supposed to feature Kross telling Sami that I was wrong about you, that, okay, you're not someone that's going to flip the switch and just be this completely different person. I was wrong. But that never came. There was no payoff to it. He just sort of disappeared after SummerSlam. No word about Kross since then. And usually what happens when talent actually leave the company, they are moved to the alumni section on the WWE website. Now, this may seem like you can easily make that a work, but at this point in history, as far as I'm aware, that does not happen where someone who is still with the company got moved to the alumni section. So what else happened this week? Well, just yesterday, he was on the Ariel Helwani show after his release from WWE, and he was there to, hype up his book, but also talk about his current situation. Now, here's what we found out in a very abridged version from that interview. He was only recently offered a new deal. Something that usually happens for the bigger tiered superstars, say like your Drew McIntyres, your Seth Rollins, they're approached pretty early on in terms of getting a new deal. When it comes to the undercard or the not so big deals like a Karrion Kross, they're usually approached pretty close to their expiration date of their contract, and that's what happened here. So very recently, Karrion Kross said that he was offered a new deal, and he was only given 24 hours to accept. He didn't feel that the valuation for what he is bringing to the table was enough for him. And after that, WWE pulled their offer, or TKO more likely, and that was it. He wasn't given another deal. There was really no negotiations out of it, and he is now a free agent. He's put out there that he's accepting bookings with independents and whoever else may want to come knock on his door. At the moment, however, he does say that AEW is not one of those. He believes that companies like AEW were not reaching out because they weren't sure if it's a work or not. And with the whole contract tampering situation we had the last few years between WWE and AEW, this is not, I guess, out of the realm of possibility. It is what it is. So, is this a work or a shoot? We don't know. We really don't know, but here's what we do know about both sides of that argument. When it comes to it being a work, so if you are new to professional wrestling terms, a work is essentially a storyline. It's part of what they're trying to tell you on TV. Now, the arguments for it being a work is this whole situation is just incredibly unusual. It's very muddied right now and just feels almost too manufactured. It's like a psyop from WWE. Like they're trying to make you think it's real, but there's just so much going on to it. We've seen countless people have their contracts expire, and it just so happens. Like recently, we saw it with R-Truth, and there's a big outcry from the fan base, including chants from the crowd. You also saw people commenting on it on the superstars themselves. Like his coworkers were commenting on how big of a loss it was to have R-Truth gone. So for Karrion Kross to have this technically a similar situation where his contract just expired and didn't get renewed, there's just so much smoke to this fire for it to be anything but work. In last week, Paul Heyman even compared the fan reaction for Karrion Kross similar to the early days of Stone Cold Steve Austin, which I don't know if I'm just not listening to the crowd all that much. I just don't hear it. I don't see it. I know there are loud vocal fan base for him out there, but I just don't see on the macro level that there's this huge outcry for Kross. There's also a documentary that Karrion Kross uploaded. I have yet to watch it, but that got officially uploaded the day of his final day with WWE, which seemed odd unless Kross saw this coming and he just wanted to, I guess, help boost his profile, which was a good proactive thing on his part. So I don't know. That just seemed like an interesting, something else we have not seen when it comes to a previously released talent or previously contract expiring talent. Also out there are the recent work shoots with other people in WWE. So Seth Rollins' injury being the most notable. It was most reported that Seth's injury was legit, but the circumstances and how it happened at Saturday night's main event are not legit. That was part of the work. So the idea for that was that they told everybody this was legit. They had an on-site scrambling of what to do with the whole show, including ruining Goldberg's retirement speech at the end of the show. So they went out of their way to pretty much tell everyone that this is a legit thing just to fool everybody and get the surprise cash in at SummerSlam. And then you have the R-Truth situation, which actually started out as legit, that his contract ran out, but the outcry was so much that they said, all right, we got to bring him back. And what a huge letdown that's been, but that's not the time or place for that story. Another aspect that this could have been a work was that viral rant that he had after WrestleMania, where he went on a talk show, I can't remember which one it was, and just went off and was probably the most interesting I've ever seen him be. And apparently that got him heat backstage with Triple H. I don't know. I feel like he would not have gone out of his way while under contract to do something so what could have been devastating to his career at that point and not have cleared it with Triple H or anyone else in power. That just seems like it's a work. He said that he got heat for it. I don't know about that. That's if this whole thing's a work. Just recently, I believe it was on NXT like a week or two ago, they were promoting Kross's new book that just came out, which feels like if you knew the time was coming up, time was coming to an end for him, why even go out of your way to promote the book? I know the book cover does mention that it's WWE's Karrion Kross, so maybe there was some kind of investment on their part when it came to the financial side of it, so they wanted to, I guess, get a return on that investment. It just seemed odd to put someone's book out there as a way to put him over and just eventually let him go a week or so later. That makes sense. And the last thing about this possibly being work is when interview requests were coming in, it was requested by either Karrion Kross or his team to not bring up the contract situation and what's going on with it, which makes you want to believe this is actually all a shoot. It's real, because he went on Ariel Helwani's show yesterday and he discussed the whole contract situation. So what happened there? But now let's talk about the real aspects, why this is actually a shoot. So to mention about the Ariel Helwani show, his energy about this situation on that show just seemed to be, yeah, this is legit. He's frustrated with how he was handled there, his lack of time on TV, his lack of care when it came to getting his new contract, and just in general, just being overly frustrated with the whole process. He gets paid to make you believe things that aren't real, but this just seems too convoluted to be anything but real. He was also written off television without much fanfare. There was no mention of him. There was no payoff to the story with Sammy. It just ended like that. Now, WWE doesn't usually go out of the way to do that to stories, at least nowadays, unless there's a legitimate reason to do so, like, well, he no longer works here. We're not going to talk about him. That's that. We're going to move on. Sammy hasn't acknowledged him. They haven't acknowledged the whole situation with Kross, and it's just kind of moved on. That's either elaborate or it's just, yeah, we're going to move on. We're not going to talk with someone that doesn't work here anymore. That doesn't help us. It's just a waste of time. But as noted, they're also moved to the alumni section, and we talked about that. That only happens in legitimate circumstances. They don't just do, well, yeah, we're going to move X to the alumni section just to make you think that they're gone for real, because people just eagle eye that thing to make sure that's usually not what happens. They move people that are gone. Kross obviously himself publicly confirmed that these deals have expired. Him and Scarlett no longer are working with WWE. They are accepting indie bookings. He's also gone back to his old name as Killer Kross, so he's no longer Karrion Kross. Of course, you can easily work that too, I know. But there's just so much that he's doing outside of WWE. It comes to these interviews and just how he's reacting online. His documentary on his YouTube page is just, there's just so much weirdness to this to be a work, but at the same time, you're thinking, we have not had a situation of someone getting released or having a contract expire where there's just so much that people don't know, or people are not choosing to believe, or people are saying things. And is this the new way we are going to have storylines be told in professional wrestling? And that's people, even backstage, people that are wrestling on these shows, people that are announcing on the shows, they don't know what's actually going on because they are being worked. WCW used to do this all the time, and that obviously didn't work well. You don't want to build a distrust between the people in charge and the people, taking the risks every single day, going out there and performing in front of a live audience. You don't want to break that trust. I don't think they're stupid enough to do that. I've been surprised they've done some stupid things, like at SummerSlam. But the fact of the matter is, it just seems like I'll be honest, it's hard to tell, because you can sit here and say there's just too much for this to be real. There's just too much for this to be fake. And it's led to this confusion across everybody. Even myself, I don't even know what side I want to sit on here yet, because I'm on the side, I think maybe like 60%, this is a shoot. This is real. He's gone. That's it. He's done. And going back to the AEW thing, I don't think AEW's not contacting him because they think it's a work or a shoot or whatever the case is. I don't think Tony Khan's interested in Karrion Kross and Scarlett. That's my opinion. So I do believe, I guess, that this is indeed a shoot. He is legitimately gone. It's interesting because while I'm not the biggest fan of the character, and especially not a huge fan of him in ring, there is a lot of interesting aspects to his character that I think people did connect with. He does have a loud fan base online. He does have people that do like him, and that's great. And to his credit, he does something that other people don't do a lot, and that's get people talking. And it's also, he's got such a unique character that we don't see from many other people. A lot of people just kind of, your basic run-of-the-mill stuff, but with him, there's actually some character work to it, and to his credit, that's awesome. But what do you think? Is this a work, or is this a shoot? Are Karrion Kross and Scarlett actually gone from WWE, or is this just some huge elaborate scheme concocted by Paul Levesque and everyone else at TKO? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, like this video. It's how more people get connected to this video specifically and be able to join in this discussion. And of course, if you do enjoy professional wrestling content, consider subscribing so you can get more videos just like this, and it'll help us out greatly, and I would appreciate it. But once again, pardon the wrestling. Thanks for watching.